So this is one that many of your black political aficionados don't want to touch, and it's the situation that's going on with Greenland. Someone hit me up, they asked me to explain this to them, and I'm going to do my best job of doing so. So Donald Trump has introduced an act called the Annexation of Greenland. In this proposal, Donald Trump is suggesting that the United States annex or take control of Greenland. That would mean that Greenland would become a territory of the United States, not necessarily a state, but a protected territory of the United States, much like Guam, Puerto Rico, and several other different islands around the world. This is primarily due to the fact that Greenland is a location of strategic importance to the United States. Donald Trump is attempting to establish the Golden Dome, a early warning system for missile defense, and he's saying that Greenland is imperative to the full rollout of this Golden Dome technology. But there's another component that a lot of people don't know, and it's not being talked about in the mainstream media. So Greenland, for several consecutive years, has been experiencing a large amount of ice melt. That's where the ice is melting, and it's causing the island to lose a lot of its mass, right? So as the ice melts, it exposes new deposits of, or previously undiscovered deposits of rare earth minerals. These are the minerals that are used in building satellites, microchips, technology that is used to guide missiles, airplanes, all types of stuff is created with these rare earth minerals, and they're extremely rare. Right now, China has a monopoly over the processing of rare earth minerals, and this is something that the United States doesn't like, because they feel like in the event of a war or something, they would be at a loss if they lose access to the rare earth minerals, and they wouldn't be able to create the things that are created using rare earth minerals. So the United States sees a very unique opportunity to secure a significant deposit of rare earth minerals at basically little to no cost, other than the military security situation that would obviously be a part of that. Also, due to the ice melt, there are new trade routes that are opening up between Asia and Europe. And China is moving very quickly to gain control of those trade routes so that they can basically control who can come through, who can't come through, and they would basically have something of a monopoly or a strategic advantage over import-export to European countries. Now, here's the issue. Denmark is kind of like the big brother of Greenland, right? They do not own Greenland, but they basically control Greenland. And they see the United States attempt to annex Greenland as somewhat of a threat to their geopolitical power. They say they're there to protect the sovereignty of Greenland, but we all know that Denmark considers Greenland to be theirs. It's like someone saying like, yo, this is my girlfriend, even though she's free to make her own decisions and her own choices. You know, if someone comes at her or wants to get with her, her boyfriend is going to step up and, hey, back off and kind of like defend her. You know, obviously that's in his own interest. He doesn't want anyone to take his woman. Same thing with Denmark. Denmark pretty much has free reign over Greenland. They have unlimited access to the resources in Greenland, and they're not trying to lose that, because in my opinion, it would have an adverse effect on their GDP, you know, on their import exports. They definitely have their hands in the pot of Greenland. Now, as far as the people who live in Greenland, those people are 85% opposed to the United States annexing Greenland and just making Greenland like a protected territory of the United States. But there's still a contingent of 15% that doesn't see the United States annexing Greenland as a bad idea. I mean, there are certain perks that come with becoming a protectorate of the United States. I mean, for one, you get American citizenship. Puerto Ricans enjoy American citizenship. Guamanians enjoy American citizenship, and I believe there's Virgin Islands that are protectorates of the United States, and they enjoy American citizenship, and thus would get a non-voting representative in Congress. That ain't so bad. It definitely puts Greenland in a totally different arena when it comes to geopolitical influence and trade. So there's some who see that, they understand it, they know that it could have a positive effect on not only their futures, but the futures of their children and, the people they love. Becoming a protectorate of the United States means an increased amount of job opportunities. American companies, I'm sure many would love to go do business in Greenland, operate, manufacture things in Greenland. There's a big plus side to that. But pretty much the 85% who are opposed are basically like, I would say, like the Indians and how they were opposed to the original settlers taking over the United States. It's like, yo, this is our land, we don't want you to have it. But ultimately, after the United States took it over, what did the settlers do? They turned it into this beautiful machine, the greatest country in the history of the world, called America. Now, here's the issue. For me, this is the biggest problem with this situation. You have European countries who have went as far as to send troops into Greenland, right, in protest to the United States taking control or annexing Greenland. Here's the problem with that for me personally. These same countries acted like little pussies when it came to Russia invading Ukraine. They didn't send a single troop. Instead, what they did is they waited for the United States to bankroll the Ukrainian self-defense efforts, and then they kind of sat back and saw how much the United States was going to do, how much money they were going to send, and then they came through with their peanuts and, add a little something to the defense fund for Ukraine. My thing as an American is this: if you guys are so bold as to challenge America, when America has explained to you and has really been explaining to them for decades the strategic importance of America having control over Greenland, why do you need the help of America at all? But what it really boils down to is this: the European countries want to be able to make back alley deals with countries like China and Russia, while depending on the United States of America to be their safety mechanism. They want to get in bed with the enemy and have America on standby just in case Russia or China decides to get greedy and takes advantage of their weakness, right? You can't do that. You gotta have it. You can't have it both ways. You can't play with fire and then expect someone else to come put it out when the fire blazes out of control. And that's exactly what these European countries are trying to do. They have the gall to challenge America, send troops in as if they're ready to go muzzle to muzzle or barrel to barrel with the United States Army. They're not. They want to do posturing that they say is in defiance to Trump. But in reality, what I believe it shows is that these countries in Europe really have no loyalty to the United States. The United States is in many ways, a useful idiot who runs to their defense anytime they get in trouble. I mean, you have a country like Germany, a country that was caught red-handed. And this is one credit I can give to Joe Biden. He caught Germany red-handed making energy deals with Russia while simultaneously asking the United States to protect them from Russian aggression. And Biden saw that. He destroyed that Nord Stream 2 pipeline, the pipeline that was running from Russia to Germany, bringing that dirty crude oil to Germany. And he made sure he put them on notice. You're not going to be able to play both sides. You're not going to be able to make deals with the devil and then expect the United States to come to your aid when things go left. Because here's the situation. Russia and China are two countries that historically have felt like they were given a raw deal when it came to the way things played out following World War II. These are imperialist nations that love to annex and take over other countries and territory. Look at the former USSR. Russia just annexed a bunch of countries and said, hey, you guys are all under us now. So they're down with the get down when it comes to imperialism, right? UK, Germany, France, countries like this, what they want to be able to do is they want to be able to throw peanuts at their defense fund, dump all their money into trade and innovation and all that, while they use the United States as their proxy military force or defense force. And what the United States is saying is this: we don't mind being a part of NATO and basically being the big kid on the block to come to your defense when you need us, but you have to let us do what we need to do so that we can protect not only ourselves and our own interests, but protect you guys and your interests in the event that something goes wrong. You even have Canada, a country with an army that's like smaller. There are African countries with bigger armies than Canada. I mean, there are some African countries that could probably beat the dog crap out of Canada in a military conflict. They're so depleted militaristically because why? They are controlled by a bunch of liberal do-gooders who believe in this idea that, oh, everyone is inherently going to be peaceful. Well, that's not what history shows us. There were many years where the United States was totally neutral. They didn't get involved in any politics. These people bring up they didn't get involved in any global politics. These people bring up Nazis and Hitler so much. Why don't they go do the research and see how the United States was dragged into 2 world wars that we were totally against even being involved in? And who dragged us in? The Nazis and Hitler, right? So you learn from history and then you don't repeat it. One more point I want to make that I think a lot of people are missing. You might ask yourself, well, why are the countries in Europe getting so cozy with China? Why do they want to be so close with China? Well, here's the thing. Look at the current political atmosphere in these countries. Every day that you look at the news, you can see that these countries are moving more and more towards authoritarianism, 1984 style totalitarianism. Every day it seems like they are slowly trying to take away the freedoms of their population, even to the point where if you look in Europe, you got people getting arrested for Facebook posts, right? What happened to freedom of speech? They already don't allow them to have weapons, and many of their freedoms are being slowly eroded by their government. And this is because their government continues to tell them, well, we're going to make this peaceful place where everything's going to be paradisaic. You're not going to have to worry about crime and all that stuff. And there are enough people who are dumb enough to continue to believe that, right? Well, if you look at what they're doing, it very closely resembles what China is doing. It very closely resembles what China is doing. If you look at China and you look at what's currently happening in Europe, Europe is moving very quickly towards being just as much of an authoritarian state as China. Surveillance is increasing. The rights of the citizens are slowly being eroded in the name of safety and peace and prosperity. So it makes total sense that they would cozy up to China and kind of start adopting some of the Chinese government strategies at controlling their population. On top of that, these countries are moving rapidly towards socialism, with almost total communism, right? And the thing about communism is or socialism and communism, you need slaves. You need people who are willing to work for free or next to nothing to make this paradise this utopia possible, right? Because we know that socialism and communism is basically where everyone is supposedly equal, but the problem is if people have no incentive to work hard, innovate, create things, they won't do that. And so it makes your country stagnant. When's the last time you saw something invented in Russia? When's the last time you saw something invented in China? These places don't invent anything. They have no innovation. They instead depend on the democratically run countries to produce, to innovate and create, and then they, buy and participate in whatever we invent. So China is a country that is willing to make their people slaves for the rest of the world so that they can continue to be a major player on the geopolitical scene. Chinese people work for next to nothing. Slowly but surely, labor is a growing force within China, but they are still years, decades away from where the workers in that country are treated fairly, given a fair wage, given days off, things like this. They're years away from that. So when you're trying to create a socialist utopia, which is what I think they're trying to do in UK, France, Germany, and other countries in Europe, you need slaves. You need people who will do the work for you, so the people in your country don't pick up on the fact that, hey, someone's going to have to be a slave. Someone's going to have to work for free or next to nothing for us to create a socialist utopia while enjoying the same quality of life. So that's why these countries are getting cozy with China, because China says, hey, we'll be your slave. We'll be your huckleberry. We'll work for nothing to keep you guys living the life you're accustomed to. But what happens is the same thing that happened on plantations in the United States back in the day. The more responsibility you give to your slave class, right, the stronger that slave class becomes, and the more power they have over you and your quality of life, the more power they have to impact your quality of life for the positive or the negative. So it's like Europe, the leaders, they know these things. They're smart. They are historically astute and well studied, but they're going to continue to ignore it because they're like, look, we want the power and authority and control right now. We don't care what's going to happen 20 years from now. They're operating in a eat for today, live for today paradigm. And it's going to cost their countries in the end. If you see almost every country that has dealt with China on this level ends up where? In insurmountable debt to the Chinese. And the Chinese are not going to continue to just say, you know what, you owe us, but we'll let it slide. The Chinese aren't going to keep doing that. Eventually, the Chinese are going to start coming for what they are owed, and you're going to see chips falling all over the globe. And I believe that China will eventually start using military force to get what they're owed. They're not going to just say, hey, default on everything yours and it's all good. They're going to start using military force to take what's theirs. Why do you think their military budget is so big? Why do you think they're building all these aircraft carriers, increasing the size of their Navy? They need this huge military because a lot of what's owed to them, they know will be defaulted on. And they know a lot of it's going to have to be taken by force. And when it goes down that way, it's going to be very hard for countries like the United States to intervene and say, hey, no, you can't do this, this, and this, and this. They're going to say, look, either you risk world war, nuclear exchange, or you let us go in, beat up on the UK, take what's ours. You let us go in, beat up on Germany, and take what's ours. That is where this is headed. So it's very important to me that the United States maintains some type of day-to-day control over Greenland, some guarantees, right? So that we can ensure the safety of the civilizations in the Western Hemisphere. There's really no debate. The posturing takes place, all this stuff, but I think if they don't agree with us, we should just totally pull back all assistance from these countries. It's the days of the United States being a stooge for these countries. It's over, man. We've been getting used for years, and I'm tired of it. I know you guys are tired of it, and I know Donald Trump is tired of it. So either if you're going to stand on your own too, Stand on your own two all the way. If you want to be allies, if you want to work together, well then let's work together and let us do what we have to do to keep everybody safe. I hope that explained it for all of you guys. Thank you so much for watching this. Please like, share, subscribe if you haven't already. Till the next time, peace.